Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for joining today. Today, we're going to be talking to Erik Drake about INFPs and life's calling, get into purpose a little bit and how you can find maybe a career that's exciting and fulfilling for you. So, Erik, I'm going to bring you on right now. Okay. And there you go. How you doing?
Hi, Matt. Good. How are you?
I am doing well. Um, Here we go. Sorry, I said I was going to do the intro after, but it didn't happen like that. So cool. So thanks for joining today. I think this will be a fun conversation, and hopefully we can give some insights into your journey as well as kind of how INFPs can use some of our personality traits and our our struggles and our strengths as a way of getting us into a better life and feeling fulfilled and seeking purpose and stuff like that. I know it's a big topic. There's a lot into it and a lot to talk about. But all we can do really is just show up and give our advice based off what we've experienced, and I think that'll be really helpful for other people too. And I see
For sure.
Julia and Leah and KYY coming in. Thanks for showing up, guys. If you have any questions, please just write down in the comments below and we can add those in. I have some questions as well that we can kind of go through. Okay, cool.
For sure.
So yeah, once again, thanks for joining, Erik. And can you just do me a favor and tell me a little bit about, who you are and kind of where you are right now in your life, what you're doing?
For sure. So I've been in public education for my whole career. I've been a school librarian, a teacher, school technology coordinator. Most recently, and for the longest part of my career, I have been um, on a team that does cooperative purchasing for all the schools in Michigan, meaning that we collaborate on all of our buying power to save schools time and money so that they don't have to do all that work themselves. Um, what's interesting about that career path to me, as I've been reflecting on it for this interview, is I never really intended to do any of those things. Like I didn't even know the job that I've been doing for the last many years existed. Actually, it didn't exist when I started my career, and I've sort of I feel like I've fallen into opportunities as they've come along, and that has led me on that professional journey. Most recently, I've undertaken the challenging task of learning to sing and act over the last couple of years, and I see a lot of parallels in that journey, even though it's much newer to me. Um, that I've just seized on opportunities as they've come, but I've really had to do that intentionally. I think in order to be able to learn to do something really new and different.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was just taking a little note. I like intentionally seizing opportunities. I think that's something that a lot of us INFPs and people in general struggle with. But I do think
Mhm.
INFPs have their own way of shying away from opportunities and possibilities outside of our physical comfort zone. And we could
For
get
sure.
into cognitive functions and stuff a bit, but really like there's this push and pull between INFPs of like, do I just remain physically safe and trust all these things that I've kind of built my life around, the physical comforts and the habits and stuff like that, or do I seek this innovative, explorative like challenge that could possibly change everything in my life? But it's kind of scary because I don't really know how to kind of. It's like a cat. I always imagine a cat putting its paw in the water, like just kind of testing the water before it jumps in or runs away. I think that yeah, we go through that a lot. So I think that's really cool that you intentionally seized that opportunity. And is there something you want to talk a little bit more about that? Because we talked a little bit just before when I was saying like one thing that I really admire about your story, from what I know of it, is that you do you want to explain it or should I?
Sure. No, I can.
Okay.
So the thing that started me on this journey was actually the onset of the COVID pandemic, and in that really uncertain time at the uh, beginning, I was looking for something to do. Well, I set three goals for myself. Basically, I was looking for um, to conquer a fear. I was looking to learn to do something new but difficult. And I think that difficult part is important because I think a lot of us, get bored and try to look for things that are new and fun to do, but they're not necessarily a challenge. And so that was an important part of it. And I was also looking to pursue something creative. Looking back, it's very obvious where those three things converge, but at the time, it, they seemed like three separate things to me. So uh, I started looking into learning to be a writer. Actually, I don't know if we've ever talked about that before. Um, I've always entertained the idea of trying to write a novel, um, but that just doesn't appeal to me very much. So I looked in more into actually, my next thing was to try to learn to be a screenwriter. That was really a hard thing to get into, and so I ended up dabbling in music. And I do have a long background in music theory, so that actually turned out to be something pretty straightforward for me. Wasn't actually as much of a challenge as I anticipated. But what I quickly learned was that I needed to learn something about how people sing in order to be able to write music. So that's when I started exploring singing. Um, about that time, the local performing arts center offered a virtual class in singing. It was just 6 1-hour sessions over a couple of weeks, and I can remember thinking both that I would be absolutely nuts to do that, not having ever sung before, and being absolutely terrified of the idea of singing to other people. Um, and I really agonized over whether to register for a long time. And finally, I just decided that if I was going to be true to myself and the goals that I had set, that I needed to just register and see what happened. And that's what has set off all of the other things that have happened. There were several other moments like that followed, but that was the one that really was key to this whole process. It was a really scary decision to make, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it is. In whatever way it comes, like that, as you said, like be true to yourself and just see what happens. Like that pull is so important, and yet it's so scary. It's so scary. It's like for me, I'm not trying to like hijack this, but like when I went to Japan when I was 17, 18, it was so scary. But I was like, I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to like just leave and get out and go experience something completely different. Um, and in order to find myself, and in order to be true to myself, but I didn't really know who I was at the time as well. I think
Exactly.
INFPs constantly go through this reacquainting ourselves with ourselves kind of cycle of like kind of we forget different aspects and then we find those again and we go over here and we kind of forget about these other things. Oh, I used to want to write. I used to be into music or whatever, and then we kind of re-add that into our life eventually.
Right.
Okay. Did you have more on your story there that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I was just going to continue just a
Cool.
little bit on it. So, I think what's important about this decision just to sign up for this silly little virtual class is um, I was absolutely terrified to speak in public or even the concept of singing at that point to me was absolutely foreign, right up literally to that moment that I registered for that class. And so, what I expected to happen, along with just like all of my other experience of being in front of crowds, is that I end up like running away terrified or some other thing and just hate it. So my goal really was just to be able by the end of the 6 weeks to sing a song in front of somebody else, and I accomplished that in the first class. So, which was really cool. It was so satisfying, and had no idea that the facilitator is involved in musical theater in my area. She's a director, actually, and so and she also is a voice instructor. So I actually ended up with like 6 singing lessons out of this, and some other people joined the class along the way, and who are experienced musical theater performers in my area. And by the end of the 6 weeks, I said, "So what do I do now?" And the facilitator said, "Well, if you start taking voice lessons, I predict that in a year you'll be ready to audition for one of my shows." So, and that's where I left it. And so
Hmm.
we can talk more about what happened after that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Like having a somebody to give you a timeline like that, or kind of like a little bit of like an authoritative push or pull or however you want to, or
So
kick,
important.
whatever it is. Like, yeah, in 1 year, I foresee this. I think you could do this. And I think that's good because I think a lot of times as INFPs, we don't really know how to calculate that stuff. We don't know how to measure how long will it take, how much time, money, effort. It's just kind of like this mysterious zone. Um,
Absolutely. For
cool.
sure.
I just want to say right quick, hello again, everybody. Thanks for joining. I see Travis in here, Angelique in here, Panda, Lenny, cool. Yes, you guys can ask questions. Please do. We're just kind of like warming up still. We're kind of making sure that we have the same understanding of Erik, and then we can
Yeah.
start asking some questions and talk about those as well. Okay, so just keep loading them up in the chat, and we'll go through those as well. Okay, all right, Erik, did you want to continue that or?
Do you know a lot of what happened after that? So do you want me to continue the story a little bit more, or do you want to talk about
Yeah,
some things?
I
Or
mm, let's continue a little bit just to say
okay,
how we met and kind of what
okay, yeah,
we
because
did.
that's going to be coming up here pretty quick. So yeah,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
can talk about that a little bit more. So now comes another very difficult decision to make. Do I invest the time and money that it takes to meet that goal? I really had no interest in performing at this point, but I really like the idea, like we were just talking about, of having somebody respected and professional in this field, um, seeing something in me that I had never seen before. And I've had moments like that before in my life, but this one really seemed important to me. So I did some um, online voice training on my own. Eventually, um, met my awesome vocal coach, who's also Matt. I'll name him because Matt Ramsey and Matt Sherman became very important to me as I was moving through this. Um, um, so I took 2 voice lessons with Matt Ramsey. Um, also started becoming involved with online musical theater groups, acting groups, just trying to get to understand what the what the environment was like. We were still in the throes of COVID, so everything was virtual at that point. Still, there really wasn't much live performing going on. After my second lesson, I just stumbled across a theater group that traditionally performed out of Florida, but had gone virtual, and they were offering the opportunity to audition for a virtual show. I had never auditioned for anything before. I had no training in how to audition for anything. But the main reason that I submitted the audition, is it just recorded audition tape. It didn't require a resume or a headshot or anything like a lot of other. It was just easy, and it was another one of those important moments where I said, "What the heck? I'm just going to send it in and see what happens." And I got cast in the show after 2 weeks of voice lessons.
That's awesome.
So that set off another whole chain of events, and I have a feeling we'll pause here and talk for a minute. Um, my next lesson with Matt Ramsey, I said, "What's going to happen when they figure out that I can't sing? I've been cast in this," which he immediately identified as imposter syndrome, and he said, "You need
Uh-huh.
to look into that." So it was actually investigating imposter syndrome and what to do about it and what it meant that I found you, Matt. So
Okay.
that was that was what led to that.
Cool.
So yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, maybe it's just mats. Maybe mats are a good thing to have around. I don't know.
And mats are a great thing to have around because it happens so often. I've been taking weekly lessons with Matt Ramsey ever since. So it's been
Yeah.
a year and a half now. And it happens so frequently that I'll be struggling with something and I won't even have a chance to ask him about it or say anything. And he'll say just exactly what I need to hear, which often
Mm.
leads me to something that I need to take back to Matt Sherman. So there's like this uh,
That's funny.
great feedback loop that's going on there, which has been very beneficial to me for sure.
Mm,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of you got hit with the feeling of imposter syndrome and like what's gonna happen if they find out, right? And
Right.
that's something
Exactly.
I've heard a lot of us INFPs talk about as well, and something that
Hmm.
I go through all the time, in my own way and stuff. Um, and so just to kind of like summarize a little bit of what we did, we worked together for 3 months, right?
Hmm.
And we kind of went into different processes and procedures and a little
Hmm.
bit of hypnosis and stuff like that to help you kind of feel more confident and
Hmm.
secure and appreciative of just embracing the moment, right? Embracing what
Yeah.
will happen. Like, because before you talked about like intentionally seizing opportunity and kind of
Hmm.
knowing that you had to do this, but it was still quite scary. And I don't know if that scary feeling ever goes away. You just learn to kind of have like a meta emotion on top of it and say, like, I'm going to appreciate this right now, and I'm going to transform it, transmute it into something else that's more beneficial, and just kind of embrace it. Yeah.
I talk with that or talk about that a lot with people who ask about getting into singing and acting now, because that seems to be the most common thing. And I don't think it's just among INFPs, although I think we're more prone to it maybe than other personality types. Um, is how do I get over just being so terrified of being on stage? Um, and not just on stage, but in lots of different kinds of social environments. And it's true. I've said this many times. It doesn't go away. You just learn how to manage it. Um, and in some ways, you can learn to use that fear um, to your benefit. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's something I'm really still working on. So I can't say that I'm much of an expert in that area yet, but I do know that um, it can be managed for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. One thing that I just kind of want to say before we get into some questions and stuff like that is
Yeah.
one thing that I've really admired about how you've approached this, and through our sessions and stuff like that is
Yeah.
like, a lot of times you'd kind of learn a tool or something, like we would talk
Hmm.
about something or you'd get an insight, and then like you would be in a completely different situation, and
Hmm.
then realize that you knew how to handle that situation because of this
For sure.
other thing that we did or this thing that you went through that you kind of connected up as a benefit instead of something that was holding you back. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very accurate description. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved like seeing the messages of like, I struggled with this thing, but then I remembered this other thing over here, and put
Mhm.
it together, and I was able to deal with it or get through it a lot faster and easier than normally what would have happened.
Absolutely.
um, and I think that is extremely important, for everybody, right? To learn to
Mhm.
foresee challenges and then deal with them before they actually become as big as they used to become. um,
Absolutely.
I just want to point this out because we're talking about it right now. Yes, Panda, I do offer one-on-one coaching. You can go to schedule.geekpsychology.com, and you can sign up for a strategy session where we can figure out if we're a good fit for each other, if what I offer works for you. And that's how Erik came through as well.
Mhm.
And it's a good way of getting to understand each other and seeing like what are your struggles, what are my capabilities and strengths, and can they fit together to help you get to the goal that you want, and then make those um, kind of lifelong changes, right? It's about the impact of one little change on the rest of your life. There's so much that happens by just learning to have more emotional intelligence, or self-esteem, or dealing with overwhelm and stuff like that. So cool. Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say, or should I bring up some questions here?
Um, yeah, I think I just want to kind of wrap up this journey because I feel like people may not um,
Yes. Yeah.
might be wondering what happened next, kind of thing, and so we can wrap that up, and
Cliffhanger.
then then we can talk about
Yes,
questions
please.
for sure. So I got my first role 2 weeks into this. Um, uh, it was a great experience. I learned a ton being virtual and never having performed in film or live theater before. I had to learn how to do stage makeup, my own costumes, my own lighting, the audio, the video. I learned so much from that one show. It was incredible. But I never felt overwhelmed by those things. Sometimes I got very frustrated trying to figure it out, and that was a good indication to me that I was going in the right direction. But it was still really new, and that imposter syndrome uh, really wanted to hang on. So that was a big a challenge. Um, so went on to do that show. Then we did another virtual show, which was an international musical theater competition, 14 entries from around the world, and we came in third. So that was cool. So that was my second thing. Um, from that theater company, I got an offer from a TV director who was also in the cast with me. She immediately offered me a role in a streaming series that she was developing. Um, so that's cool. We were deep into rehearsals, and then there were some creative changes, and so we're on hiatus right now. And I'm really looking forward to getting back into that. That'll be my first film work when we get to that point.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I also through that initial show met another musical theater actor who I've gotten to be good friends with, and he cast me in my first full length virtual musical. And I've done 6 shows with him since then. So, which turned out to be a great experience. I finally got the opportunity when theaters reopened to audition for and was cast in Bonnie and Clyde in a community theater last fall.
Hmm.
So that was exciting. And then I ran into my first roadblock at the next audition that I did after that, which I did not do well at, which was a great learning experience. But I went through a really frustrating period where I thought maybe this really wasn't the right thing to do at all. And I think that's an important thing that we should talk about. Um, and I'll just wrap up that journey. But I did recover from that. There was a little bit of a lull over the winter, and I wondered whether or not any opportunities were going to come back up. I went back to writing a little bit, um, which helped, but it was still not very satisfying. And just recently was auditioned for and was cast in Music Man with a different theater company, and so now my confidence is back. That I know that I can do this, and I have enough experience with things over the years that over the
Yeah.
last year or so that yeah, I think I'm going in the right direction now. So, and I think I'm more prepared to handle those lulls in between.
Cool. Thank
So
you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. It's always just awesome to hear about all the different, you know, progress and the different situations that you're getting into as you're learning more of this craft and learning more about
yeah.
yourself, and kind of hitting these walls, these barriers, and then finding out how to navigate them, and things like that.
Mhm.
So it's always very cool to hear and see as well. Um, all right. So I'm gonna just start opening up some questions, and we can go through those. Is that cool?
Yep.
All
That
right.
works.
So Lay's got a question. Any suggestions for the over 40 INFPs that are scanners? As in, interests change and jobs become more tedious, and the INFP becomes more disillusioned the longer the job. Yeah. Oh, I'm 37. I'll be 38 this year, so I'm almost to 40.
And I'm in that over 40 group. So
Okay. All right. Do you
yeah.
have anything that you want to talk about first, or do you want me to throw out whatever's coming up in here?
My initial reaction is I don't think there's anything wrong with scanning.
Mm,
But I think you have to really watch for those opportunities to come along and take advantage of them. I
yeah.
think that when we're in that scanning mode, we have a tendency to just move on to the next thing
Hmm.
and maybe sometimes ignore, um, especially the signals that might seem kind of scary. And I've been there. I get that. But as you heard me say, once you start taking advantage of those, listening to yourself and listening to for those opportunities to come up, um, I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, yeah. I think also just thinking of the metaphor of scanning, like it should be there for a purpose, right? You're looking, you're
Hmm.
scanning, you're pinging around for a purpose, not just because. And so when you do find something that should, theoretically, it should make you want to act on it in a specific way that is going to be more beneficial for you, whether it's growth or safety in whatever way it is. Kind of thinking about submarines right now. Like, do you attack it? Do you flee from it? What do you do with that? Right. And I think changing interests is going to always be a part of anything that you do, probably as an NP, right? As a perceiver, like, and constantly trying to figure out who you are in the process as well. Like, it's really important to, and take this with a caveat, but like it's really important to explore different options and different possibilities.
Hmm.
Um, there comes a point where you're too spread out and things like that too. But then you got to kind of gather it up, and what was the lesson from this that is showing me something that's really important about myself and my direction, my purpose, my life's calling or whatever, and then kind of bring that, put it in your backpack and use that like on your next journey. Um, One thing that you said, Erik, was I have enough experience to handle this other thing right now, and that comes through getting experience, right? And you gotta get experience before you actually can know how to handle things, right? And you learn from it. You don't get overwhelmed as much because you've gathered all this experience. Does that make sense? Does that resonate?
Yep,
Cool. I hope that
absolutely.
was helpful. Let's keep going. Let's see. Da, 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 da. Do you? I forget, did we ever talk about Enneagram, Erik?
We haven't talked about that much.
Do you know your
I
type?
am a four wing five,
Hmm. Okay. Yeah,
and I
I'm
don't
I'm a
really know
nine
that
one.
much about it. I know a lot more about Myers Briggs than I do Enneagram. So, yeah, I don't know if you have any insights about that in relation to this. That'd be great.
Not right now. Maybe something will kind of surface later. But yeah, I'm a 9-wing 1. And you said you're a 4-wing 5. I know a lot of INFPs are either 9s or 4s, some 6s as well. But yeah, there's I can definitely resonate and understand a lot of like what it would be like to be a 4. And I thought I was a 4 for the longest time, until I really got into like what are my fixations, what are my big hangups and things like that, and what are those like grander patterns of my life, that I had repressed and denied and stuff. So
Yep.
cool. I'm pretty sure my brother's a 4. So um and we'll just continue with Travis here. What are ways you've improved TE inferior? So we're talking about goal setting, right? Accomplishing things, measuring the progress, marshaling resources. I call it the strategizing commander, right? So it's about making sure that there is a strategy that you can go in there and accomplish what you need to accomplish. Does anything come up for you?
Yeah, for sure. Uh, several of the resources that you helped me with, Matt, have been very helpful in this area for me. One of them being goal setting, and the other being journaling. Um, daily journaling is just so important for dealing with that TE inferior and function. I had always hated journaling before, and it's not that I don't like writing. I have a lot of experience writing. It really, I think, is more about when you write it down and put it on paper, it feels like a commitment, and or
Ah,
it is a commitment.
mhm.
And I think that's really what I resist when it comes to journaling. I still struggle with that a little bit, but when I'm doing it, it helps keep that TE function,
Yeah.
moving.
Definitely. And in terms of journaling, what I do for TE specifically, and this is, it's a low level thing. It's not like something like an ENTJ would bring about and do, right? Sorry, I got something in my eye. But it's just checking like what did I do today? What did I accomplish today? And then tomorrow, what are my three goals? Or even what are my one or two goals, right? And just keeping those top of mind, I think, is really helpful. And you start to learn like how big of a chunk can I approach here? And like, was that too big of a goal? Maybe I need to like chop it up a little bit and take baby steps along the way. I know a lot of times we get this huge big dream, this amazing thing that we want to accomplish, but it's massive, and we kind of get overwhelmed by how big it is, and we don't really think of got to break it down. What's the first little thing that I can do that will make progress along the way, and just get a little bit of XP and experience along the way. So that's what I do, and
Yep,
surround yourself with TJs if you can. If you can deal with it internally and externally, and also taking classes and courses on goal setting has been really helpful for me. Um,
fortunately, I live and work with TJs, and that's really important.
yeah, yeah. One of my best friends was ESTJ, and I just got to watch him accomplish things all the time. I got a good ENTJ friend too, and it's just amazing to see how they work and to appreciate it and to absorb whatever you can from that, and make it your own. Cool. So I see Lenny here. Hey, how to overcome the social anxiety?
It's a tough
Um,
one.
it can be. Um, yeah, there are tons of different ways that we could go about talking about it, but like I think the biggest thing is probably what you don't want to hear is just to do it a lot, to get a lot of experience approaching people and talking to people. I used to wear like pink kangaroo costumes and stuff like that and just go out to the clubs by myself to put myself in the most awkward situations possible so that I could, again, gain experience and know that I have enough experience with this. I kind of know what to expect. I kind of know how people are going to act. And then it's not so shocking and outside of my comfort zone because I've blasted out my comfort zone so far. Um, but it was very difficult for the first couple of years doing it. Then I kind of got like addicted to it. I liked it.
Yeah, I agree. My experience is similar. Although I haven't worn pink kangaroo costumes to clubs, but I appreciate the approach. Um, for me, the key to social anxiety is confidence, and um, my primary tools for building confidence are getting the experience, like Matt said, um, making yourself vulnerable, which is a really interesting approach, and that was a key part of being able to get into singing for me because singing is one of the most vulnerable things that you can do in public. It's really about the display of emotion. And the reason it scares people so much is you think that you're going to get booed off the stage if you can't sing. And that just doesn't really happen. It's not a real thing.
Right.
So, um, I found that the easiest approach to trying to develop that vulnerability was the expression of gratitude. Because the expression of gratitude is a very vulnerable thing, but it's also a very easy thing. And you'll almost never get any sort of negative feedback by expressing gratitude to somebody. And honestly, if you express gratitude and you get negative feedback, you don't need that person in your life. So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So get experience, make yourself vulnerable through expressing gratitude, and singing. Yeah. Cool.
mhm,
Yeah, I think expressing gratitude's it's something that I still kind of struggle with.
yeah,
But I know it's good. I know it's helpful, and I know it's always beneficial when I do it. And in terms of making yourself vulnerable too, I think like on a deeper level, you realize that you can cope, that you can acclimate to whatever happens. Um, and you're not this flimsy little thing, right? You kind of build a thicker skin around it, you build more tools or get more tools to accomplish the things that you want. I think that's really important. Cool. Yeah, I don't necessarily recommend that everybody go out and wear a costume to clubs and stuff like that, but it worked for
it's,
me because you're going.
yeah. No, I was going to say it's a strategy. If it works, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it was kind of my way of putting me so far out of my comfort zone that I was like I had to kind of act as if I was more confident. And I'm sure like through acting, like when you do it, when you kind of assume a persona, you start to gain
Mhm,
the qualities of it, right? You activate neural
mhm.
pathways, you start to change your breathing and your physiology. And those are all just really important things that you can do to kind of reverse, like hack it, right? Like, well, I'm just going to show up as if I'm confident and pretend as if I am, and then pretend I stop pretending, and eventually you just kind of like get into a different aspect of yourself, a different character.
I'm glad that you brought that up about confidence because it reminds me that I always thought confidence was only around being, hope this makes sense, confident about what you're actually doing. Well, I couldn't do that being a new singer and actor. I had no experience to know or to know if I could do it well or, any of those things. Um, the key really is to be confident that you can learn to do what you need to do to accomplish your goal. Do, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so like when I got Bonnie and Clyde, which was my first stage role, I was terrified. The imposter syndrome came right back. What if
Mm,
I can't do this?
yeah.
Um, but I learned how to do it.
What if you
And
can do it? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So now my confidence level is not so much will I be able to do one specific role or, the role that I'm in a music band now is much bigger role than I had in in Bonnie and Clyde. And so there are new challenges, new things I have to learn. But now I have the confidence to know that I can learn to do those things because I've done that before.
Yes. Yeah. That's the big one, right? Acclimating and coping, knowing that you can do it, knowing that you can learn the skills and achieve those things. And
Hmm.
and a lot of that
Yeah,
confidence comes from having more experiences.
right.
And specifically for INFPs, it's like um, putting yourself in a breadth of different contexts, right? And
Hmm.
then kind of encapsulating those as little like learnings, right? And little
Hmm.
experiences that you can reflect over and that you can say, well, I've been through something kind of like this before. And then I can imagine it going in this direction or this direction. So using it as an advantage instead of,
Absolutely.
whoa, what could happen? Like, what are all the different things, and getting overwhelmed by that.
Hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, yes, David, the channel is still active. I've got like 600 videos on it. I haven't really made too many videos recently, maybe like one a week or two a week, but been struggling with some personal stuff. Let's see. Oh, I saw another one. Cool. Um, the Jacobin. I don't know, I don't know which intonation to say. Is it normal to struggle to find yourself as an INFP 35 and still haven't achieved much? Yeah, yeah. I think it. It's quite normal. I kind of got ignited in a lot of ways when I was almost 30, as well, and I just was like, this is my goal. This is what I need to do. I finally kind of found that again, and just dived into it and surrounded myself with everything that I liked about personal growth and self development and coaching and things like that. Um, but you're it's hard to say, but you're not going to find yourself if you're not exploring, if you're not going out and doing new things. And I don't know your situation, right? But like, I know a lot of people we're afraid of getting out, right? Like, I would rather just sit at home, be by myself, read a book, or do something like watch some Netflix or something like that, listen to some music, do some art. But you're going to get like exponentially so much more self discovery by just doing things that are completely outside of your comfort zone and different to what you thought you were. And it doesn't cancel you. It doesn't make you not who you are by getting these new experiences, but it like kind of adds to it. It's like seasoning on some food or something like that, right? You start to kind of gain some more flavor to yourself. I'm hungry. You have anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I do. I think that as INFPs, we do not give ourselves enough credit for what we've accomplished. I hear that a lot from INFPs. So I think you've probably achieved much more than you're giving yourself credit for. And that's one of the things that Matt has some resources for, is sort of identifying what those things are and figuring out how to set goals if you're feeling like you haven't accomplished much, to do exactly what Matt was just describing. So that would be a good thing to work with him on, actually, I think. Um, and yeah, I think this goes back to the previous question that we talked about, which is there are probably a lot more signals out there than you're paying attention to. Um, and if you really listen to those, it'll give you some clues about um, some places that you could explore and grow.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, look for the signals, look for the patterns and the stories, the aspects of your life that kind of just keep coming back, um, and follow those and delve into them. What is it about that that's so important to you that it keeps coming back?
And if you really work on that goal setting, one thing that I've noticed is when I set goals, I really like the concept of the reticular activation system. I know Matt
Mm,
works with that a lot. Once you start looking for things, you'll find them. Um,
yes.
that's happened to me a ton in last year. And this is a whole new concept for me. I um, One of my degrees is in educational technology, and the university that I got it from, it's in the educational psychology program. So I actually have done a lot of work with Myers Briggs and some other things. And um, just lost my train of thought. I gave you too much background information. It'll come back in a minute.
Okay. Well, yeah, just let me know. Yeah, the
Yeah.
reticular activating system is like the part of your brain that the standard example is you buy a blue car, right, of a specific make and type, then you start to see
Mhm.
that everywhere, right? It's because you've
Mhm.
alerted your unconscious mind that like this is important to me, right? So I'm going to look for it more, right? And then it starts to pull it out. If you look for ways that like, why am I not successful? Why am I so dumb? What, then you're alerting your RAS to say, okay, I'll show you. And just pull all these different reasons. Oh, you stubbed your toe over there. Well, you're so dumb, right? It shows you all these. But if you train your mind to like, well, how could I make my life better? How could I find myself in some way today? How could I discover more about myself every day? Your brain is going to say, okay, if that's what's important to you, let's do it. And, sometimes it takes some work because you got to deal with old habits and things like that. Um, but you can set up random reminders on your phone. You can put post-it notes on your wall and stuff like that. Make your can't think of the English word, like the background on your phone when you open it up to have a reminder of look for something sparkly today, whatever it is. If that's the thing that reminds you to change your mindset a bit, and train your RAS, then that works, and you'll start to find yourself if that's what you're actually intentionally looking for.
Yeah.
Cool. Do you have a book that's changed your life? Such an INFP focused question. I appreciate
It
it.
is an INFP question. People ask me that all the time, and it's hard. As a former librarian, I there's so many books that are so influential, and I can never think of one. I need to have one in my back pocket sometime when people ask me that question. Do you have one, Matt, that you can?
Um, the ones that always come to mind are The Art of Happiness by the Dalai Lama. This is one that I read in high school, as well as The Celestine Prophecy.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't remember too much about it, but I know that it was kind of like encouraged me to, and this is focused on the RAS as well, is to, like, when you notice a coincidence, to say that's probably there for a reason. I should approach that, and that's why I came to Japan, was because of a series of coincidences. There was this guy. I was like, wow, he's really like interesting and intriguing. Maybe I should go talk to him, because I just read the book, and we became friends, and he came on my journey, and we lived together for a long time and stuff like that too. Um, so yeah, the Celestine Prophecy was one of those that just kind of like gave me that acceptance of being curious about something and then leaning into it. Tons of
Yeah,
books though.
I haven't come up with one, and I know that's not very satisfying, Christian.
It's okay. Let me see here. I haven't fully read this one, but do you think confidence starts to become more stable as you overcome more? Yes. Or does it stay pretty fluctuating and you just learn to handle it better? The way that I think about it is, if you have like a jar of confidence and there's like a liquid in there, each experience that you get, that you think of as a learning process, not as a failure, right? If it didn't go the way you wanted, then okay, that way didn't work. What can I do better? Right? If you keep filling your confidence jar up with those types of thoughts and experiences, then I feel that you do become more confident as you overcome more. Sometimes you'll splash some out. Sometimes somebody will siphon some of the confidence liquid, right? But I do think that that's how I perceive it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. The only thing that I would add to that is my confidence level has been on a roller coaster over the last couple of years, and I've talked about a couple of things that have shaken it. Um, I think the key though is to not give up, because once you give up, then you're not facing those challenges anymore to rebuild the confidence um, to do it. I talked about I went from having just a really exciting year with a lot of great opportunities and not really facing too many failures, and then all of a sudden I run into this just horrible audition that I did, that really did shake my confidence. And there were several times in there that I thought, okay, I'm just really, this isn't the right thing, but I stuck with it. I mentioned that I changed to, or I took up writing again. Um, so I found some other creative pursuit that was related to what I was doing, that kept me going enough to get to the next opportunity to rebuild the confidence. So yeah, I absolutely see it fluctuating. And especially if you're doing hard things, challenging things, your confidence is going to get shaken periodically. And it's how resilient you are as you're moving through that journey.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So I think of it a lot like, because I play games. This is Geek Psychology. It's like when you level up, then you take on a bigger challenge, right?
Mhm.
And you first start out by like running errands and picking up flowers and stuff like that. Then you start, fighting boars and whatever it is,
Mhm.
gremlins and goblins, and then, eventually dragons and, whatever it is. But like you, I feel that your base of confidence continues to grow, but the challenges that you approach are getting bigger. So it might feel like, it's fluctuating and you're losing confidence or whatever it is. Although I do believe, depending on your state and your emotions and how
Mhm.
much you slept that day and what you ate yesterday, like there are all a bunch of different things that will
Mhm.
kind of cause you to be in a more resourceful state or not. um, the bigger the challenges that you take on, the more it will feel like you are losing confidence, but you're actually just doing things in a bigger way. Cool. We got about 9 more minutes. Is that cool?
Yep, that works.
Okay. Let's see. As an INFP, I find it challenging to work in an office environment. Honestly, I feel trapped. Do you have any advice? Run. No. Something that Erik, you just said was, I didn't write down the whole thing, but about creative pursuits,
Mhm.
and writing. And like, if you're in an office environment, there's probably a lot of structure, a lot of introverted sensing, extroverted thinking, maybe
Mhm.
extroverted feeling stuff going around. And you don't have like the freedom to be spontaneous and kind of pursue what is invigorating you. So having creative pursuits after or before or during your lunch break or whatever it is, some way of like kind of re-stimulating your introverted feeling, right? As well as your extroverted intuition, and like what is important to you and how can I express that in some way, right? Maybe it's just writing a little note or something, drawing a little picture, something. Of course it would be better to have like a big goal attached to it, like that you're making progress on. But if it's a triage, I don't know how to pronounce that word. If it's like a difficult situation, you need like some support right now, you're getting stressed out, like do something creative or go for a run, go for a walk, and re-stimulate that stuff. And sometimes people will give you some flack about it, right? But if you put yourself in a better, more resourceful state, then you can do your job better. So if you can find a way of translating that for the other person, it might be helpful.
You gave most of the advice that I was going to give. Yeah, very. No, it was great. Um, I spent the first few years of my career working in schools, and um, that is not like a typical office environment because you're constantly dealing with kids and people and moving around. And but for the majority of my career, I have had an office job, and as an INFP, I agree with you. It You feel trapped. And so the key is to do exactly what Matt just said, which is to um, you know what it is that re-energizes you, and to do as many of those things as you can within the structure of your workday. I was fortunate to work for many years with people who like to walk. So we would, especially in the summer, our office was in sort of a wooded area, so we'd go walking on the trails and um, talk and
That's nice.
whatever it is that you can do outside of your work hours to re-energize yourself is important too. And then you have that to look forward to. So the only thing that I would add that Matt didn't talk about is I think if you focus on that feeling of being trapped, it gets right back to the RAS. You're going to feel trapped. So um, figure out what it is that you need to do to feel less trapped, maybe even untrapped. That might be a good place to go and do those things as much as you can within the confines of your work environment.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. If you're looking for reasons why you feel trapped, you're gonna find them. It's what your
Mhm.
Google search is doing to your mind, right? Like, am I trapped? Well, here are all the 50 ways that you're trapped today, and it's gonna get worse and worse. So yeah, switching it to an empowering question of like how is this job today helping me get somewhere more important in the future, or something like that, right? I think that's awesome that you had people around you that you could, go for walks with and go to the forest, go into
Yeah.
nature. That's so important.
Nature is so empowering when you run into these negative feelings of feeling trapped or lost, or all these I don't really call them negative because they are who we are, but these feelings that INFPs are prone to, I
Mhm.
think. The only one other thing I just thought of, Matt. Sorry, I don't want to dwell on this too long, but another thing you should consider is perhaps finding another job. I mean, that's not realistic for everybody or every situation, but I think it's a good thing to kind of keep on your radar. If you're really that miserable, then maybe look into doing something different.
Yeah. Yeah, and whether it happens right away or not, you can still work towards it, right? Gaining,
Mhm.
maybe you don't have the skills that you need to do something that you really want to do right now, like writing, right? So you got to practice it, and you can find ways of practicing, while you're still working this other job that you do feel trapped in. Um, and that helps your introverted feeling and your strengths and stuff like that. Every time I coach with somebody who is like depressed or like really just down about stuff, it's usually because they're not doing their dominant function. And for us INFPs, you're not, embracing the things that make you you, that you really appreciate, that you want to have more in your life. And you're trying to do all these other things that are, expected from you. So you have to add those to your life in some way, some creative pursuit and expression of self. Cool. Since this is about life's calling, I think we should maybe wrap it up with this. I still have a lot to scroll down through, but let's see. Abby says, "Hey, Abby, can you have a calling later on in life? How do you deal with discouragement from others if you want to change tracks?"
Yeah, that's a tough one. Um, well, I think I have found a new calling later in life. I don't think that we have just one calling
Hmm.
necessarily. Maybe some people do, but I don't feel personally bound to that idea. So I do think that I have found a new calling later in life. So um, so I think that's good. Discouragement from others. Is something that I really have wrestled with in this journey. What I've discovered about one of the many things that I've discovered about myself is that I'm very prone to taking in and retaining other people's negative reactions to things. So, like if I had gone on this singing acting journey at some point previous in my life, if somebody had said, like, you can't do that, you've never done that before, you don't have any experience, whatever, I
Hmm.
would have listened to them. And that's honestly one of the big reasons that never pursued it. I can't tell you how many times in my life people have said, oh, you're not a creative person. And I just absorbed that and convinced myself it was true. And it turns out that it's not. So, um, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
and that really ties into the you just have to do it. And all the decisions that I've made that were hard and scary, the ones that where I just said I'm not going to listen to anybody else, I'm not even going to listen to my own inner critic, I'm just going to do it, have paid off. So yeah.
Hmm. Um, I think labels are so important, and the labels that you give yourself, like
Mhm.
I am an innovating empath, or whatever it is. Like I'm an actor, right? I'm a singer, or I am a depressed person. I am a failure, right? I can't do, like, they're so important, and people throw labels all the time, and you gotta grease up or something so it doesn't stick, right? And you gotta have like a robust identity, and that comes through experience, that comes through um, following your own path, right? And saying, no, I'm just going to do this because this is important to me. It might work out, it might not, but I'm making a decision and I'm going to do something about it. Making decisions can be difficult for INFPs unless we're fully convicted about it. And that comes through, usually I've experienced this before in some way, and I've attached an identity label onto it or some beliefs or emotion around it. Um, so kind of embracing that is important, but it's hard. And discouragement
Yeah.
from others, they're always going to be haters. Like I know it's always going to happen. I mean, I get them in the channel all the time too. Luckily, not too often, but it happens, and it kind of messes you up for a little bit. But then you just got to realize like that person is one not right for me right now, or maybe they're going through something. Usually, they've had a bad day, or they're going through something, and they don't know how to deal with it, so they just try to get it off of them, and they put it on whoever else is around. Um, and I think it's just a part of life. You're never not going to have somebody who is, isn't believing in you in some way, which is unfortunate. It would be great if everyone was always like kumbaya, holding hands and stuff like that. But it's always going to be something. Cool.
Yeah.
I see so many
Yeah, they're
questions
great
and
questions
stuff.
over there.
Yeah, thank you all. I saw, where is it? Hold up. Somebody said something. Oh, here we go. I just want you to say hi about this. um, yeah, Riled is going on to an audition in 2 hours, and she's terrified. She's never sang in public before. You got it. You got it.
Absolutely. If I can do it, you can do it for sure.
There you go.
Yeah, I remember that audition for Bonnie and Clyde, and I thought I was just gonna sink into the floor. Um, and I don't really feel like I did a very good job, but I got a role. So, but
Did
I
something
mean,
right.
the important thing is what the director thinks, honestly. So,
Hmm.
and the first time is scary, and it just gets easier after that, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Everything does. If it were easy, then you'd already be a singer and famous and all this other stuff. Like it takes time, it takes practice, it takes and sucking it up and just being like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna see what's on the other end, what's on the other side of this door, right? Or what's beyond the wall that I'm seeing right here, right? And just embracing it. Um, and that's a constant theme throughout life. So getting used to it and knowing your pattern, knowing that like, okay, before it happens, then I start to like psych myself out, and then I want to go eat some chocolate and stuff, and kind of just like, well, you know what, I'm just gonna stop everything. It doesn't matter anymore. I can't do it. But then I actually, you know, reach out to somebody, get some help or whatever it is, and I pursue it. Like if that's your pattern, knowing that that's your pattern helps you kind of uh, fast forward, skip some scenes, or delete some of the things that you don't want to deal with.
For sure. And then just know that even if you audition and you don't get the part, it's not necessarily about anything that you're lacking.
Mm.
Directors need, I don't know if you're auditioning for a singing role or if it's musical theater or whatever. Musical theater is more my experience. Um, Directors need specific looking people and sounding people in specific roles, and there's not always a spot for everybody who auditions in a show, and that's a really hard thing to to get past. Um, so the thing is to learn what you can. There's always something to learn out of every audition, whether it's even just something internal to yourself, um, and carry that forward to the next one. But don't give up if you don't make it. So I wish you the best
Yeah,
of luck.
yeah. You can do it. I remember when I was living in Nagoya, I was teaching there, and I was doing some auditions and stuff. I did some in Korea too, and I auditioned to be an English teacher in a commercial. And they were like, "Well, you don't look like an English teacher." But I was like, "I am. I am an English teacher. Like, how can I not get this part?" Right? Like in my mind, it just didn't fit. But as you
Yeah,
said, like they had an expectation, they had a vision for what they wanted to do. It really didn't have anything to do with me and how I showed up or who. Like I could have been amazing, and still not kind of fit the part that they wanted. So
hmm
is what it is. But at least I learned, that's a thing. And with, I'm sure, auditioning and singing for performances and stuff like that, you just, you learn more about yourself, like how I showed up. I wasn't quite in the mood, or I was just so excited, and so happy to do this. And you learn that that's something important to you, and you keep pursuing it. Although I've said that a bunch of times today, but I really do think that that's the process. Cool. I got a lot of people saying thank you. Thanks, Erik, for sharing your story. Thanks for doing this. A lot of really positive and happy comments. Thank you, everybody, for coming and listening to us talk about life's calling and purpose and career and journey and being an INFP and struggles and triumphs. And I just think it's really important to have a community and a place where people can share these things and work together. So if you want more of this stuff and you're an INFP, please go to inowfeelpositive.com. INFP, inowfeelpositive.com. And you can join the community. We got like 2,400 or so INFPs that are all just working together to help each other out and make the world a better place. Bio.geekpsychology.com has other links for other personality types as well. So, do you got anything last thing you want to say before?
No, thank you everybody for joining us. This was fun, and I appreciate the opportunity, Matt. It's nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Yeah,
That's
you got nice
that's
teeth.
what made me laugh when I saw Christian's comment.
Cool.
That's funny. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, wow, I got it. Okay. Anyway, yes, thank you. Thanks again. It was nice catching up with you. Best of luck in the rest of your journey, wherever that's going. And I'm sure you'll keep me updated as well.
Absolutely. We'll be in touch.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, sorry. Is there a place that they can contact you? Or is that not a, I don't know. Is there like a profile?
I hadn't really thought about that before. This is the first time I've done something like this. So
I can put it in the comments down below or in the description if something comes
yeah,
up.
why don't we do that? Well, I have to think about how to do that.
Yeah. See, we learned something.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks again. See ya.
Bye-bye.